Hello everyone, Matt from Model Minutes here, and welcome back to the Workbench for another unboxing. Today I'm taking a look at the Academy F16A in 1/72 scale. So join me as I get stuck inside the box and see what this kit is like. So as you can see here, we have it in a slightly more modern kind of boxing from Academy. We've got this kind of stylish overlay at the top, but we have this rather nice image of the F16 in flight. You can see that I've got a price that I paid for that, but I will discuss that a little bit later on. Down here on the left, it says that glue and paint are not included, which was quite typical, and the look of the product may vary slightly from the pictures shown on the box, which, yes, tends to be a bit of a theme of Academy kits. Sometimes you'll buy it thinking this is the version you'll be able to create from the boxing, but actually it'll have a different paint scheme inside the box. So do take that with a pinch of salt sometimes. And on this edge here, we have some information about the F16 kit, that it has detailed cockpit and landing gear, it has engraved panel lines and rivet details, and various weapons. And we do have some images of the built model. So here you can see that this particular kit has the ability to have the canopy in an open position, and I do quite like that they put images on the box because it does give you something to sort of aim for. But yeah, that looks to be quite a decent model on the box there. On the other edge, same information as before, but then we do have a little bit more information in a variety of languages. We do have a copyright date down here of 2012, but copyright dates aren't always tooling dates, so take that with a pinch of salt. On the thin edge, we don't have anything else really to note other than we have an item code of 12444. So we will get inside the box and see what we have. As is usual, I'll have a look at the instructions first, but quite typically from Academy, we have other bits of paperwork. We've got this, sort of warranty card. We've got some hints and tips on building your model, and also another sort of warning card about, make sure you're staying safe. So instructions wise then, this is a single sheet of paper. So immediately this is telling me this is not going to be an overly complicated kit. This is printed in black and white. We have an image of the finished model on the front there, but the image here doesn't seem the same as the image that we had on here. As you can see on here, we have an aircraft with an open canopy and stripy tail, but on this one we have no such thing. We have a closed canopy and no stripy tail. So have we got what is advertised on the box? Information about the F16. Oh, but wait, it's not an F16, it's a YF16. So isn't a YF16 the prototype version? It says here it was the second F16 built and was used to evaluate the characteristics, so it's a prototype version. So I thought I was getting an actual production version of the F16, but now I'm being told I've got a prototype version. So as we come down, we have our painting instructions, which are in black and white. Unfortunately, black and white makes it a little bit more difficult to ascertain the colors. They have labeled the colors. We've got a light blue sort of mottling on the top. We've got off-white underneath. It does tell us here what the off-white Federal Standard color is, what the light blue is. The tailpipe should be gunmetal and the tanks and missiles are white. But these are not great instructions. Also, decal placement. So we have a little sheet of decals included, but it's a little bit difficult. You're going to have to hunt the decal to try and figure out what's going on here. So this isn't particularly user friendly. Flip over onto the back then, and we are now being met with our assembly. So we have a bit of cockpit detail, but you'll remember that it said highly detailed cockpit and landing gear. But actually we've got three parts that go inside the cockpit, which consist of the chair, the floor, and the control panel. The control panel does have a decal, but I would question whether three parts justifies the word highly detailed. We install that inside of our fuselage halves, which are joined together, and then we add our pilot, by the looks of it, our canopy, our nose, our wings, our tail and surfaces, and the tailpipe. And you'll see here that it indicates that this is not two parts, it's a single part. I would have thought that this would have had displayed the option to display it open, as can be seen on the box. Let's progress. We have our air intakes, which get assembled, and the little fins underneath. And then we have our landing gear. So it looks as though the landing gear may be able to be installed in the race position, given that you have to cut the landing gear cover in order to install the landing gear leg. We also have our main landing gear here, which again, I think if you just glued the covers in place, you could have it in a flying pose. And then we are met with our sort of missiles and bombs. So the drop tanks get glued together. I think these are guided bombs get glued together, and then they can be installed onto the aircraft, as well as I presume they're AIM-9s on the wingtips, and also a little pitot tube on the nose. So not an overly complicated looking kit. Instructions are okay to follow, maybe not as clear as other manufacturers, and also it doesn't really appear that they've given us any painting instructions like for the internal cockpit area or whatever, so you're going to have to do maybe a bit of research or just make it up as you go along. So needs improvement, I think. Decals then come in this little bag. It's a little sheet, quite a small sheet for a 1/72nd scale aircraft. I've seen 144th scale kits with more decals than this, but we have I think that's part of the control panel. Oh, the registration on the control panel is a bit off, isn't it? It's got like a big white blob off to the side. I don't think that was typical. Yeah, so registration is when they print the colors. They do the colors at different sort of times. So they'll do the white first, and then they'll do the red, and then they'll do the blue. The registration is where it all lines up. So you want it to be perfectly aligned so that it makes sense, but registration is off. So like here, for example, you can see on where it says rescue, you've got a yellow arrow, you've got the outline in black, but actually the yellow part is off to the side. So it isn't fully covering the arrow, and then it's outside the box, basically. It's like they've colored outside the box. The same with this one. And you can see on the stars and bars, the red bar is too high up. It should be central. It isn't. So the registration is a bit poor. The printing isn't particularly legible either, even though it says rescue and there's some text here. It's more like blobs. It's a representation of text. It's not particularly good. The decal film does feel a little bit thick. I have experienced transfers of this sort of age from Academy before, and I wasn't particularly impressed. I find that they do suffer to settle onto the details of the kit. And if you look carefully, if I get the light to shine on it, you can see that the decal film goes around the outside of the decals, not particularly neatly. It's quite a big amount of decal film. If you're worried about that, you could trim it down a little bit more. I probably won't bother, but in particular this control panel, if that's the shape of your control panel, you're going to have a lot of excess decal film hanging over the edges. A bit disappointing. Some of the printing is okay, but the registration is off, and yeah, so not the best decals in the world. So we have two sort of grey. There's a slight green tinge to the sprue, but ever so slight. I wonder if the camera will pick that up. And then we also have a little bag with our clear parts in. And right, here we are. Clear parts then. We have one small clear part. I forget what that was for, but probably part of the... Is it part of the cockpit or is it a landing light? I'm going to have to look it up now. What was that for? So yeah, it's just here. It's just this tiny little part that isn't even labelled. I think it's like part of the heads-up display. So that goes in the sort of nose of the aircraft. So heads-up display, and then our canopy. The canopy is moulded to a pretty decent quality. There is a slight scratch just down the back here, which may not pick up on the camera, but I can definitely see that. But generally the plastic is to a pretty decent quality, not much in the way of flash. The canopy frame, oh, come on. Are you serious? The framework is on the inside. Why is the framework on the inside? How am I supposed to mask that? Oh, that's an absolute pain. So generally I'll mask the outside and spray the whole thing. But they've put the canopy framing on the inside. Well, what's the point? Ah, what a pain. So you might also be able to notice that this is a single part. Whereas if you look on the picture on the box, you can see that it is displayed open and the back part is still attached to the model. So I don't think that whoever built this model kit modified the clear part to replicate that. I don't think that this is the kit that's inside the box. I think this is a 1/48 scale kit, and they've taken the pictures of this and used it on a 1/72 scale box. That's a bit misleading in my book, because it's not the same, is it? It's not the same. What you've been shown on the box is not what you've got inside the box. I know, granted, they put that little disclaimer, what you get inside the box might not be what's shown, but you know, you would have thought they would have put a picture of the actual kit rather than a completely different kit that you're never going to have in the box. So let's move on to the parts then. We have our lower side here. What did they say on the box? Fully engraved panel lines and rivet details. Oh, so would you class these panel lines as fully engraved? Because I certainly wouldn't. They're barely even present on the model, so that's disappointing. What we can see here is it's a bit crude. There is a bit of flash. The plastic is relatively dense, perhaps a little hard. The level of detail is almost non-existent. The pilot is he's usable. I've seen better. Flipping over to this side, you can see ejector pin marks are on some of the detail surfaces. So we've got ejector pin marks on the wing here. Very frustrating. That's something that will need cleaning up. Landing gear legs are molded to a relatively nice quality, but it's not great, is it? It's not ideal given what was sort of told to us on the box. We've got one of our missiles here, air intakes. The plastic doesn't feel overly greasy or anything, and you know, there is some flash, but it's sort of manageable. But this isn't looking like the kit that they advertised on the box. Again, we've got mold ejector pin marks inside visible parts, like there's a massive one there inside of the engine exhaust and inside of the air intake. Lower side of the wing has got some as well. Also, if you didn't want to have weapons on, you've got these massive holes. Yeah, this isn't, I don't think this is the best work that we've seen from Academy. Again, top side then, we have got recessed panel lines and some details. This ejector pin here, you can see where the ejector pin comes in to push it out the mold, has actually gone all the way through. So we have a sort of puncture where the ejector pin has been present in the plastic on the outside. Yeah, it's not great. We do have like some sort of information down here, which I can't read. It's a bit of a clunky kit, isn't it? There are some reasonable, like the wheels are okay, sort of looking. But I don't know what to say. We have 2 grey-ish plastic sprues molded to a moderate quality, but there are, I think there's even some there's like little sink marks and things like on the wing here. You can see where ejector pins are. So the occasional sink mark details are not particularly great. Rivet details don't seem particularly present. Panel lines, I would argue, are not entirely engraved. They're very shallow if replicated. Ejector pins sticking through on the other side. A bit of flash. A little bit crude. Clear parts they're generally acceptable, but they're not what was advertised on the box because it's not in an open position. Decals are, again, somewhat questionable. Registration is off. Film looks very thick and overflows quite a bit of the printing. Instructions don't replicate a aircraft that's depicted on the box, and also could do with some extra information because they're very bland, and also being printed in color. I do like the artwork though. The box artwork is lovely, and as you can see down here, I paid £6.75 for it, so not an exactly expensive kit. I have tried looking online to see how much these are sort of retailing for. It seems anywhere between £6 and £10. Like, if I'm being honest, I think that was about right for what we've just seen inside the box. For something to mess about with, it's a cheap kit, a single paint scheme. It's not great, is it? What do we say? We had a tooling, we didn't have a tooling date, we had a copyright date of 2012, but this is not looking like a 2012 quality kit, is it? From what I can actually tell online, this is potentially a 1983 tooling, so it's considerably older for its age, and I'm not a huge fan of the fact that I am pretty sure this is the 1/48 scale F16, which they have represented here on the box, because what we've seen inside the box is not what is shown in these images. So that, in my book, is a little, well, it is misleading. This is not the product that's inside the box. I can live with it not having the paint scheme that's shown on the box. I mean, that's part of the reason why I picked this one up, was because I thought I was getting this paint scheme, which I'm not. So I can live with the fact that sometimes they put different paint schemes in, but the fact that they've got these images of this aircraft depicted like this with its canopy open and the level of detail that's on it, and you open the box, that's misleading in my book. Interestingly, this is, to the best of my knowledge, a 2012 release, so probably one of the most recent versions that you'd get from this. If you were to want to get one of these, this is probably very similar to what you'd get. But I actually had a go at building an older version some years ago, and you can just see how far I got with it. It's the same if you look in here. This, I think, has it got a date on the box? Look on the box here. So different artwork. On the box, you can see an image of the kit as built, which makes more sense. But the thing is, I think it's the same paint scheme. It's the same paint scheme. 568, 568, exactly the same paint scheme that's included. The decal printing actually looks to be about the same quality. No real differences there. If anything, actually, maybe the registration on the old one is slightly better, but it's very similar. But on this box, you can see that it doesn't match, does it? It's not the same product. You've got a different plane on this one. This is a more true to life representation. So, you know, if you had this picture on there, you're managing your expectation, but having the other one on there just isn't. So this one here, again, we've got some images on this side. This has a copyright of 1983 on it, which is, I'm led to believe, the original tooling date. So this makes more sense. This boxing makes more sense because it's actually a more true representation. It's a more true reflection of what you're getting inside the box. Yeah, so you can see I actually had a bash at building it. We've got the same instructions. Nothing has changed. These instructions are the same. This has probably been in my stash for about 15 years. I tried building it like 15, maybe even 20 years ago. Those are the same. It's the same paint scheme. Nothing's changed. Just the boxing has changed. They've made the boxing more sort of misleading. And then here we are. I tried building the kit. This is as far as I got. I was going for like a base sort of metallic color. I don't know. I don't know where I was going with this. I don't know if all the parts are still in the box. So what have I got? What am I missing? Canopy's in there. We've got a sidewinder there. We've got a wheel there. I might be missing a wheel. So I don't know what I'm going to do with this. Perhaps maybe I'll take the wheel from the other kit and put it on this one, and then like rescue this kit and then do the other kit in a flying pose. I don't know. I don't even know like if it's even worth saving at this point, because it just looks pretty questionable, doesn't it? So yeah, not the best experience. I think probably time to wrap this one up here. This is a rather old and clunky looking kit. If you can get it for £6.75 and you're going in to build something just for a bit of fun, not too serious, not necessarily the best example of the YF16, then you know you could have a bit of fun with this. But there are some quality concerns, and also the fact that it isn't the product as advertised on the box. I think I'm going to leave that one there. Don't know if I'll build this one. Maybe I will, maybe I won't. Let me know down in the comments what you thought of my review and whether my assessment of this kit was fair. And as always, a quick shout out to my Model Club members for the extra support they give the channel. Massive thanks to these guys on screen. And if you'd like to join them or support the channel in other ways, take a look at the links in the description. The best way to support the channel for free, though, is by subscribing with notifications turned on, so you never miss a modelling upload. Finally, though, last thing to say is a massive thank you to you for watching this one, and I'll see you on the workbench again next time.